When I first realized that I was going to be a parent, I was super scared. After 2 or 3 weeks of meeting in the home visiting program, I was totally comfortable with the fact that I was going to have a baby. Yes, I was still scared, but at the same time, I felt like I had some sense of strength behind me.
If I didn't have those resources that Jeanette provided me, I think it would be harder now.
I got into the program and I realized, like, oh, this is nice. And now look at me, I work at a family resource center with parents and families, all this stuff.
I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to meet my home visitor, because without her, I think that I would be 10 steps behind from where I'm at right now.
Pero pues aquí pues ya los enseñan un poquito más cosas que uno no sabía. Cómo cuidarla, cómo desarrollarla, cómo educarla, y pues es algo bien, porque pues cosas que yo no sabía, pues ya usted nos las dijo y todo como consejos, y pues muchas cosas que se aprendieron.
I don't know what's normal for a 22-month-old baby or an 18-month-old baby, you know. When we get together, we usually discuss and get some progress made with the baby. It makes me feel comfortable. And
Good morning. I would like to call the Mendocino County LAFCo meeting of March 4th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Larkin, are you there? Okay, roll call. Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner Cole. Here. Commissioner Horsley.
Here.
Commissioner McGordy.
Here.
Commissioner Roden.
Here.
Commissioner Kristen. Commissioner Crane. Commissioner Hashik. We have a quorum.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to item number 2, public expression. The Commission welcomes participation in the LAFCo meeting. Any person may address the Commission on any subject within the jurisdiction of LAFCo, which is not on the agenda. There is a 3-minute limit and no action will be taken at this meeting. If you are participating via Zoom, you can use the *9 on your telephone keypad or the raise hand feature on Zoom if you have public expression, or if there are any members of the public in the room in Ukiah that wish to come forward for public expression.
Looks like none online.
Okay, and seeing none in the room, we are going to move on to number 4, the consent calendar, the regular meeting summary for February 5th, 2024, and the February 2024 claims and financial report. And Uma, you had an update for the claims and financial report, correct?
Yes, thank you. We've passed out a staff report packet for the claims to show the addition of the Ukiah Daily Journal charges for $619.54. That is the difference.
Thank you, and I'll be looking for at the Commission for any questions on either the minutes or the financial report. Mr. Ward.
I have some questions. I don't have my little yellow thing. First of all, on page 2 of 97 under, oops, excuse me, no. Page 5 of 97 under 3C, standing committees. I believe we have that a little backwards. Chair Mulhern appointed existing members who served in 2023 the executive committee. It's got commissioners Mulhern, Roden, and Gonzalez. I think that Gonzalez should be me, and then the policies and procedures should be Mulhern, Gonzalez, and Roden. Unless I'm not on the executive committee and I don't have to attend the meeting afterwards.
Not so fast. Thank you, yes.
Oh, I see.
And then on the claims, on January invoice, there was a $2,013.38 that was for the coastal review. What was that for? I think it was on page, let me find it.
Which page is that?
Maybe it was a March one.
Who was the invoice from?
It was for the coastal, but it was no invoice. It had to be cash. It wasn't labor. Hang on a minute, I'll find it.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't have that marked down. But we can move on. I can let you know later. 87 costs went up. Why did they go up so much?
They didn't provide an explanation, but I can look into that if you would rather we hold that check and get more detail from the auditor's office.
It was like we had scheduled 2,500 and went up to 3,800. I mean, I've never seen it that high since we've been doing the 87 costs.
So I might have an answer. I know the county is moving towards actual reimbursement for time spent on different tasks. So we're seeing across the board increase in costs for many of county services. But that would be a quick call to Sarah Pierce to figure it out.
Thank you.
The $850 check that was avoided, I see that you reversed that out. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, because in the January one, it still was in there. Is that why we had 2 reports for the?
So the $850 was we received an invoice noting that it would be $825 for the whole fiscal year, and then we received an invoice from the clerk's office breaking it into just the first half of the fiscal year, and they will bill us separately for the second half. So they returned the check for $825, and that was taken off of the budget tracking for last month. And this one includes $375 for the February through June meetings. We were not charged for January.
Okay, thank you. That was the reason I got 2 of those reports. I just wanted to make sure.
Correct.
And then in let's see, was it council changes in February? There was in the invoice, all those invoices for the MSRs. It looks like some of them might have been applications.
All of the time charged by legal counsel was for organizational and work plan review.
It wasn't for application.
Not for
applications. Okay.
Not for applications.
And my last question is, who owns the computers that you use?
We have one laptop that is at the office. I typically use my own when I'm working from home.
But the laptop, it belongs to LAFCo?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And what about all the updates, like, the Dropbox, Adobe, all those? We're paying for those on our laptop?
Yes.
Okay. That's nothing that's built into your contract then? Do you keep up with those?
No. Anything that's any software for my laptop is the responsibility of my business.
Okay.
But LAFCo does pay for Office 365 for the office laptop, and they pay for Dropbox, and there's Adobe Pro.
God forbid you leave, but if you do leave, that laptop will be ours and it'll have the updated
That's correct.
stuff in it. Okay. So we're paying for it, so we might as well have it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll dig up that other question and do it at maybe last of the meeting, but that's all I had.
Okay, are there any other commissioners with questions? Mr. Gonzalez? Oh, okay. Okay, please go ahead.
I'd like to move the consent calendar.
Second.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
We seem to be having some technical difficulty.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner McGordy,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner Horsley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole, and Chair Mulhern.
Yes. Thank
Motion
you.
passes unanimously.
Thank you. And also, if we could just let the record reflect that Mr. Christian has also joined us here in the board chambers. We'll move on to item 6A, the Mendocino County Waterworks District Number 2 Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Study.
Thank you. I'm going to share a screen so we can have a PowerPoint. Okay. There's trouble before. Okay, well, that's the work. Okay. This is a workshop on the draft municipal service review and sphere of influence study prepared for Mendocino County Waterworks District Number 2, which is also locally known as the Anchor Bay Sewer District. I want to give special thanks to the district's board president, Linda Marie Koza, and the contract general manager, Chris Troyan, who is also the general manager for the Gualala CSD. Both have been very responsive to our information requests and have reviewed the study and provided feedback that was greatly beneficial to the development of this study. And Ms. Koza is here with us today and is available for questions as we get into the workshop. The staff report for this item starts on page 19 of your packet. Municipal service reviews are a study of an agency's governance and operations and analyzes service capacity, the financial ability of a district to provide its service, governance, accountability, and anticipated growth. It's also an opportunity to identify opportunities for efficiencies of service and governance. This is the first municipal service review and sphere study prepared for this independent district. The district has long flown under the radar and was only recently brought to our attention by public inquiry and board communications. As background, the district was formed in 1958 to provide sewer service to the Anchor Bay community, which is a small unincorporated community of just about 100 parcels located about 3 miles north of Gualala on our south coast. The County Board of Supervisors governed the district until 1996, when an independent board was elected and established by statute. At that time, all powers of the board were conveyed, a Board of Supervisors were conveyed upon the new board. The district provides a single service, which is sewer collection and treatment. There are approximately 80 customers that rely on the district, including residential, a small commercial strip along Highway 1, and the Anchor Bay Campground. Regional municipal service providers, this is a map of the district itself. The treatment facilities are located in this strip over here, or the ponds, treatment ponds, excuse me. Regional municipal service providers in the area include the Gualala Community Services District, which also provides sewer service, and the South Coast Fire Protection District, providing fire and EMS services, and the privately owned North Gualala Water Company. The district owns and operates a sewer collection system, a wastewater treatment plant, and 2 permitted discharge points for different use during different times of the year. Until recently, the district has been unable to achieve a full board and was operating without management staff or sufficient staffing. However, in 2022, a full board was elected and members have been working diligently to bring the district into compliance with its statutes and permit conditions. In 2023, the district contracted with the Gualala CSD for a part-time general manager, and administrative support. Since then, the district has been developing board policies and procedures, initiated a rate study in compliance with Prop 218, and has begun assessing infrastructure needs and discussing options for the future. There have been no changes to the boundary since its formation, and the sphere for the district was first adopted in 1984 along with the Zion study. So this is the first update of its sphere. Staff recommends that the Commission provide comments through this workshop and requested revisions on this draft study and direct staff to notice the matter for public hearing. That concludes the presentation, and we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I do see Commissioner Roden's hand, and just a reminder, we have pins, so McGorty and then Horsley, and then we'll go around. Thank you.
One of the earlier slides.
Is she on?
Is it mute? Are you muted?
Now is that good?
There you
Yeah.
go.
There you go. Okay.
Anyway, can you go back? Well, I haven't said it. That one. What's the blue outline of outside of the magenta color?
This is the North Gualala Water Company, which is a privately owned
The
public
water
utility.
company. Okay. And then what's the sphere of the Gualala Community Services District?
They
Just-
have almost a coterminous sphere, although I believe it does extend into Sonoma County some to include Sea Ranch area, and then also a Gualala Point State Park, I believe.
When you say coterminous, do you mean coterminous with the water company?
With its own boundary.
With its own boundaries? Because I was thinking, if in the future they ever want to consolidate or, take in the Anchor Bay, would we have to change the Gualala's Community Services District sphere? So that's why I was just wondering what their sphere is.
Yes, that is correct. The sphere would need to be changed for Gualala. And I will note that we hope to have Gualala CSD to workshop at our next regular meeting of the commission. And then the intent would be to bring these, both of these agencies forward for the public hearing at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I have a little comment. I don't know if we're at this part yet about just commenting on the draft. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah,
Or,
go ahead.
It would be nice at the very beginning in the, after you talk about LAFCo and you begin to talk, there's a table that summarizes the agency overview on page 2-1. But it took me a long time till I found actually what their facilities are that they have, that they actually have a wastewater treatment plant, collection system. That orientation would be helpful to have at the beginning. Maybe it could be in that agency overview where it says something like capital owned by, I don't know, something like that. That would be helpful. And I had some really, really minor thing on page 30 of 97. At the very top, 2.1.4. The second sentence that starts, no other services are provided and no out-of-agency connections exist. And I always find that hard, out-of-agency. It's like, it's weird to me. And it would be my preference, but I'm not wedded to it at all. If it said something like, and no connections exist outside of the agency's boundaries. This seems more clear to me. And then there was on page 33 of 97. Oh, God. I wish I had a hard copy because something about the ambulance clinician where their offices are located at some clinician thing. Where is that? You know what I'm talking about? It has to do with where their offices are.
That's 33.
Yeah, I thought it was page 33, but it's
about
so
the board
okay.
additional offices.
Yeah, where is that? I don't want to hold up the meeting. It's not worth it. I'll tell you when I find it.
I do see it. It's on the, under 2.2.2, the second paragraph.
Oh, the board meets at a clinician ambulance service district office. Like, I think offices may.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, I suppose we're going to talk later about the findings and all that because that's so important, but those were just general comments on the draft.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McGorty, Horsley, and then Ward, please.
Yeah, just to echo Commissioner Roden's point, is that when you give a report like this, I like to know about the physical assets and not have to, read them at the end. Because that's a lot of what my concern is. The physical assets of these small water districts are really limited. And you know, we can see that they're already reaching out to somebody else to help manage the organization. And in the grand scheme of things, we're seeing the same thing inland, where we're having consolidation of small water companies, and with the pressure from the state for water quality and treatment, I think it's inevitable that we're going to see a consolidation of smaller districts in multiple areas, because for someone to run a water company and a sewer company for 80 customers, that's really difficult. And it's worth knowing right up front, what are we dealing with? What is the size of this? What's their capacity? Can they expand? Can they not? That should be in your report when you give it to us, so that we have a better feel right off the bat for what we're dealing with, not buried deep in the text.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Horsley?
Thank you. On page 27, very last sentence, while Mendocino County is not subject to the provisions of SB 375, LAFCo will review applicable regional transportation and growth plans. So in a case like this, regional transportation, I can understand the growth, but is transportation a LAFCo staple to look at transportation? I mean, because in this case, they're isolated, and I'm sure there isn't a ton of transportation. How would that even apply?
We are required to look at regional transportation plans when we do our municipal service reviews. I think they usually have valuable information about population and growth, and that is information that we pull in when it's applicable to the district.
But this one, it wouldn't be, would it?
No. So we reviewed the regional transportation plan and used it as one of our resources, but did not pull in any transportation-specific information.
Thank you. I have about 6 or 7 questions here, so please. On page 30, second paragraph, latent powers, it says, under Division 16 of the California Water Code, latent powers of the district include. So when it was formed, are you saying that all those powers were included in the formation document?
That's a good question. No, the only service that was included in their powers was sewer service. These are listed to show what powers are available under the Principal Act. So we can provide clarification to that sentence there.
Okay. Page 34. I just, the recommendation is it's recommended the district board review the decision to maintain its own website. And I think from other comments that have been made, there's a lot of discussion about consolidation and maybe providing more. So I know for a lot of the water districts, Willow Water website had all the different water districts on the Willow website. It seems to work well because when you Google it, that's where it takes you to, is that. So is there a requirement that they have to have their own? They can't share with another agency?
There are specific things that need to be on a website to be compliant with that statute. So it doesn't specify, I'm not sure if it specifies it has to be an individual website, but it has to be compliant with all those requirements in SB, was it 929?
Sure.
So we can look into that.
And then on page, let's see, 37. The district, this is under 2.3.2.3 strategic or succession plan. The district does not currently have an established strategic plan, mission statement, or official goals. Is it a requirement that they have a mission statement? I mean, I understand having goals, but a mission statement, it's required that they have a mission statement?
Those are indicators, performance indicators for how the governance of an agency. So it's not maybe specifically required, but those are indicators that of the depth of the governance and the policies and procedures that they have in place, and how they function and operate.
You had mentioned before that a lot of these, the little water districts, just don't have the staff or the money to do all of these administrative tasks. So I guess either you hire somebody to help you put these things together, or you consolidate with another agency that maybe they can share one set of, I know the mission statement might be a little, a strategic plan would be different, but if that's really required of these little tiny, it just seems like a lot. You know, reading through this, it was like, oh my goodness, this little tiny. The Sand District has contracted with Willow for staff and administrative functions, including billing and so forth, because it just didn't make sense for both of us to have duplicative staffing for those functions, and it's worked well. So I don't know, expanding that, I'm sure they're looking at that, but it does make sense to try to combine those. So who pays actually, whose payroll is the part-time employee on? Is it on the Gualala, or is it on the this district's payroll?
My understanding is that is on the district.
It is on the district's payroll, okay. And so they could contract out for that and it taken off their payroll and it be under Gualala's if they wanted to. And I know they need more money, but they're looking at the rate study to be able to do that. Because it looks like the operational administrative support is obviously, it needs to be beefed up. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I'm sure they're looking at all that. And then on page 46, I don't understand why the savings account has increased and the general operations, it keeps going down, 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 but where's the money coming from to increase the savings account?
I am hoping that that Ms. Koza will be able to help us a little bit more with those questions.
Okay, all right. And one last question is on page 61. The 22 violations, I just wanted to make a personal statement, having worked with wastewater plants extensively. I looked at those 22 violations, and a lot of them are just nothing. They have to report them because there was a violation, but they're not a big deal. Because when you look at 22 violations, you think, oh my God, they've done all these terrible things. Well, they haven't. There's been a few things, but a lot of them are just, I mean, every wastewater treatment plant has those same violations from time to time, but they have to report them legally, so.
Can I ask you a question? Would you recommend, because I thought the same thing, I mean, in Willits, you know, we have to report it. It always sounds awful to the public that you know, especially in the wintertime when the ponds overflow and the sewer goes out, but like it's the weather. Would you say something like a qualifier, like comparison, that while they had 22 for an agency that size, it's typical or something? I don't know what the language would be.
Yeah, I mean.
Because otherwise it does sound onerous when you look at those.
It does, but there was a couple that I thought were, you know, more pertinent or to be concerned about. But I think the fact that their infrastructure is so degraded at this point and starting to, all of it needs to be redone and renovated, that could be an issue, a big issue for them. So, and that's all I had. Thank you.
Can I ask her a question too?
Thank
you. The violations, the 22 violations, some of them are several years old.
Yeah.
Don't they have to respond and get those, try to get them off?
Right.
If there's really deep, small detail issues. Get them off.
I know, evidently a half-time employee doesn't have the time to do that, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Ward, Commissioner Gonzalez. Questions, or was that your question as well?
No, I have a
Okay.
lot more.
Okay.
Before, I'd like to hear from you represent the Anchor District, okay, Anchor Bay District. But before I have her come up, I have to ask her questions. I'm a little embarrassed to be, being on this commission for 22 years. Why is it the first time we're seeing this as a MSR? They've been in business since '58.
As I mentioned, they were under the radar for a long time. We have actually no files in the LAFCo office files on this district. I think it was because they were governed by the Board of Supervisors for many years that we did not have it on our list. So we did receive a couple public inquiries last year, and then Ms. Koza reached out to us with a number of questions, and so we added that to this work plan for this fiscal year and prioritized it.
How long have we known? Have they been on our radar? How many years?
I would say 2 years. Year before last is when we first started to hear from the district.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Because a lot of the things they're doing now, it looks like from the recommendations, they're actually getting into somewhat compliance. We could have had this resolved years ago.
Yes, and maybe Ms. Koza could speak to that when she starts to, when she presents, but yeah, it's such a small district, we just didn't hear much about it.
Yeah, well, those 103 people probably would appreciate it. As well as a 30% increase coming up. They could have done maybe smaller increases, over the years. I don't know. I'm not here to bash it, but I'm just saying it's a little frustrating to finally see this after all these years. There's no other small water districts are like this, are there?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay, good. So, I have some questions for her, but what about the board being only 2 members? I mean, how do you operate? I mean, not operate. How do you legally operate? How do you make decisions with only 2 board members, or 1 board member, or only the general manager making the decision?
Right, they clearly were not in compliance with their Principal Act. So that was something that they've worked very hard to remedy, and again, I believe Ms. Koza can speak to this further, but it is a difficult situation. Many of these homes are second homes or vacation homes, so it makes it difficult to find eligible people to run for the board.
Right. Okay. I mean, there isn't a particular ratepayer could sue because of the out of compliance type thing for paying for their rates, things like that. That's what I would be worried about.
That another thing that they discovered when they started to look through their operations is that the rate structure was not Prop 218 compliant. So they've been working hard to remedy that, and I believe that they have scheduled or very close to scheduling the Prop 218 process for public hearings.
But when were they aware of these things? Since we started doing our MSR?
It was prior to when we started the MSR, but Ms. Koza did reach out to me, I think it was year before last, and started asking questions about how they bring their district into compliance. And so that's when we started to work with her.
All right. I'd like to hear from her if we could, please.
Thank you. Can you please introduce yourself for the record? And then I still have Mr. Gonzalez that may have questions as well.
I'm Linda Marie Koza. I'm president of the board of Mendocino County Waterworks District 2. I've only been on the board since July of 2023. So I can't really answer all of your questions about the past. We've been pretty focused on the present and the future. But I'd be happy to answer anything that I can.
Okay, Mr. Ward.
Who's your counsel?
Excuse me. Our counsel is Laura Radcliffe, who is with Hanson Bridget, which is one of the law firms that's recommended by the California Special Districts Association, and they were recommended by the General Counsel to Gualala Community Services District because we never had legal counsel until late 2023, mid-2023.
Okay. And why does the district attorney attend all your meetings?
Gualala's attorney attends all of their meetings. I noticed that the SDRMA, the Special Districts Risk Management Association, it's one of the things they want to know when they're assessing the risk and giving us our policy. And it has been incredibly instructive for us because the board prior to 2023 was never in compliance with Brown Act, never knew that there was a Brown Act. None of the board today was on the board back then. So we have had everything to learn kind of all at once, and it's been very, very helpful to have.
So I know you have a relationship with the Guala Water District, but have you talked about consolidation with them?
We have talked with our acting general manager, who is their general manager, a lot, and he has briefly discussed it with his board. I think we think about it probably a lot more than they do.
So you've read all the recommendations in the MSR.
Yes.
Can you handle them all? I mean, there's a lot of recommendations there. It's going to require a lot of work.
I think we're well on our way to addressing most of them, really. It is a lot of work. It's been a lot of work just in the last few months. But the board that we have now understands the challenges, understands what might not have been done entirely correctly in the past, and is very aware of the risk of our whole plant and collection system failing. They're very interested in accomplishing the most important things to make sure that our ratepayers, who are only 80 individuals, aren't. We already pay very, very high rates. We pay about $1,900 a year, which is substantially more than Gualala, substantially more than the Sea Ranch. I believe it's one of the highest in the state. And those rates don't cover the current cost.
And what do you think is going to happen when you raise them another 30%?
We don't know for sure that it's going to be 30%. That was sort of the very first initial take. We're in the process right now, or I should say our acting general manager and consulting engineer, with the help of the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, are in the process right now of completing a really thorough rate study. So I don't know, it could be more, it could be less than 30%, but it's really going to be substantial. And honestly, I don't know how the community is going to react. We have tried really hard to be super transparent ever since we've had the new leadership and new management, so that they know what's coming. But I don't know. I just don't know actions.
I didn't see any financial statements. Do you have financial statements?
Yes.
Are they audited?
Yes.
They weren't in our packet, were they?
All right. We took a little bit different approach and provided graphics rather than like a statement of activities, but that's certainly something we can add in. They did provide the last 3 years of audits that had been completed to date, and I know they're working on the most current one, and they will be providing that when it's ready. But we can provide a statement of activities.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the deficit and the capital is. You know, are they a going concern? And definitely, you can tell that from financials.
You asked a question about capital. Could I answer that?
Sure.
Why the savings account was going up?
Oh, that one.
the customers are assessed two different amounts on our property tax bills. One is for operations and maintenance, and the other is for capital improvement. The district has been collecting in the category of capital improvement since they've been in existence. They really haven't ever done any capital improvement. So they had a big savings account. Fortunately, because we had an extremely expensive near environmental catastrophe that we had to deal with in 2023, and we had the money to do that. But that is why the savings.
The last question is, I want to thank you for hanging in there for, what, 2 years you've been on, well, 1 year you've been on the board.
Not even a year.
Not even a year. It takes a lot of effort on your part to do what you do, and I appreciate that because obviously this is a big problem. And you're faced with it, being the face of the Anchor Bay sewer. So thank you for doing that. But if there's a reason for consolidation, this is one reason for consolidation. I don't see how you're going to make it, in the long term. So we'll see what we can do. Hopefully we can do something.
Thank you. I would also like to say, having only been in this kind of a role for a few months, I am just blown away by the commitment of all of you all to do what you're doing, and working with Uma and her staff. Her team has just been so reassuring. I really appreciate everyone's generosity and attention.
Thank you. I'll have you wait for just one moment. I want to make sure that Commissioner Gonzalez's questions aren't for you, and then I also see Commissioner McGorty with a pen up.
Again, I want to join the commissioners in thanking you for being here and doing what you're doing. I think we see a lot of small districts come here, whether they be cemetery districts or, in your case, trying to get things done for the community, and sometimes with a bare bones budget. Mine was going to be more of on the meeting location, maybe having it posted not only the time and date and where, and have that as a subheading so that if anybody reading this, ours would just be able to go, hey, look, I can go to their meeting. I did a quick Google search. I usually do that when we do these, just to see if I can find their websites or whatever. And ironically, Google first sent me to, of all places, someplace outside of Willits, and then I had to redirect somehow or another. It wanted to send me with stock photos. I don't know why it went there. And then I finally got to where you guys are kind of there. I guess since I have two board of supervisor folks here, we have a lot of districts that don't have website locations, that if it was possible, maybe one day the county could at least host a spot where, if nothing else, there's be a hyperlink there for some of these folks. I mean, if someone's going to be in it for the long run, they can do a GoDaddy or something and set up their own website. But if there was a hyperlink location on the county website for every district, at least I'd be directed there. Then I could click, and if it sent me to one of the districts, like you guys, or maybe pay bills or whatever, then at least I'm going to one spot, because I know that a lot of the younger generation likes to click on their phones and go to one spot. At least you'd find it. And I guess that was it. Everything else, I think some of the folks have covered already.
Yeah, just for the record and for clarification, that is held on the LAFCo website. So anybody could go to the Mendocino LAFCo and find every small district in the county.
I'm talking about hosting, if nothing else, hosting a spot.
They do. LAFCo does.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a valuable tool, but more people need to know that that's where they can find them. Yeah. So, Commissioner McGorty.
So I'm curious about the status of your physical plant. Is it all 1958 original, or has there been substantial upgrades, or where do you stand?
There are a lot of things we don't know the answers to. In fact, we learned from this staff report that the district was formed in 1958 because we have not found records that go back that far. My understanding is that the collection system, the pipes in the ground, were put in the 1960s. And they're a type of pipe called Orangeburg, which is no longer used. It has a useful life of 50 years. And we've had some, that name is familiar to you. So there's a lot of concern in the community about the collection system. And I think that the treatment plant was put in early 1990s. Nothing really substantial has been done since, other than just repairing pipe when it breaks.
Thank you. Did you have any additional questions? Okay. Thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate all of the hard work that your new board and that yourself are trying to take on. So I understand that there's no formal action and that we'll have another public hearing. It sounds like maybe in a few months here. Can we, when we have the item come back, just as part of the agenda summary report, pull the recommendations all on one sheet? I think that might be helpful. And are there any other comments or suggestions that the commissioners have for when the public hearing comes back? Commissioner Horsley?
I just want to say that you are not alone. It's just a little later than a lot of others, but it's so easy just to go along if everything's working and everything's okay, to just go along and not worry, you know, previous boards and the manager, because everything's going along okay. So they don't want to worry about looking at capital improvements and so forth because it's all working. And then all of a sudden, because they didn't do that, it gets stuck with someone like your board now having to work it all out and figure out how to make it work. And it's to the point where it's critical. And so, as it's been expressed, we really appreciate all the work that you and your board are putting into this. And I want to say, Uma, I think it was an excellent report, a lot of detail, and really appreciate the work that I'm assuming that Larkin put into this, yes, also. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ward, and then McGorty and Gonzalez?
Well, with the question of having it presented to us in a public hearing, I'd like to see the financial statements, you know, at least the last year's anyway. Sometimes they do comparables from year to year, I mean, from the previous year. Also, are the recommendations the same as determinations? I mean, normally there are determinations in the MSRs.
Right, we do have a summary. We do have a summary of determinations. It's in section, it's a separate section after the MSR in the end of chapter 3. And then we called out recommendations just for guidance for the district, really, to, you know, improvements that they can make for their operations and their governance. So it's slightly different. If it required inclusion in a determination, then we did include that in the determination section at the end of the MSR. So it's kind of an additional piece that provides different support to the district.
Okay. And lastly, I guess, since you mentioned that both agencies will be coming in for the public hearing, you as staff are dealing with both of the agencies. We'd like to see a plan maybe for consolidation, or how you would recommend consolidation, because I don't see any other way around this for them. I mean, it really needs to be looked at and taking advantage of it now while we're in a public hearing process, you know, for consolidation, because I know there's a lot of little districts out there, but this one here I'm really worried about, especially with the rate adjustments coming. And the highest in the state already.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Yeah, we also recognize this at the staff level that the consolidation is certainly an option that should be considered, and that's where it's really important that the determinations that are adopted for both this district and the Gualala CSD reflect the commission thought on that. We did try to include some discussion on the consolidation efforts or idea in this document. We will be doing that in the Gualala CSD MSR as well. And again, as far as process, we hope to bring Gualala to to workshop, so a similar type presentation to the commission at our next meeting, and then would hold both as a public hearing the following month.
Well, we're on the subject, excuse me. Is there any other districts that could be merged into this?
We did provide a new section in the MSRs where we talk about the regional services. It seems CSD is the vehicle for providing the widest variety of services. So it is possible that they could activate latent powers for water services, or they can do quite a bit, recreation, fire, they can even do some transportation. So it is CSDs can provide the kind of local government outside of incorporation. It's the closest that they can get.
Well, that would be, I think, something we need to look at, definitely, for that area. They're all small, and bigger is better. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. I'll go to Commissioner McGorty and then Commissioner Gonzalez, and I do have a new member of the public online, so I just want to make sure that we have received all the public comment as well. So Commissioner McGorty, please.
I think it'd be very worthwhile to have some sort of assessment of the condition of the system. But that's really alarming to hear that it's all plumbed with Orangeburg pipe. From my own experience of having a CIRSA 1958 Orangeburg pipe system on one of my buildings on my property on Old River Road, all that pipe is gone. I replaced it personally with PVC because it's very prone to intrusion. It was created during World War II when there was a shortage of metal, and what they did was they compressed tar paper, basically, I think with a ceramic coating, and it's very prone to intrusion by roots, and it wears out. So the town of Mendocino is also facing a crisis with their sewage treatment plant. So this is a time where Mendocino County government probably can actually help with trying to augment or replace things like that, and it's something that has to be considered. Plus, probably some expansion, because I suspect that there are residences very close by that also need sewage treatment because their water source is nearby. So these are things that long-term are very big concerns for coastal communities, that they were fine for sort of low density, low use in the 1950s, but wow, it's different now because in many cases we have year-round residents and there's a lot of pressure. So a little bit more information about the physical plant itself would be really helpful.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez and then Commissioner Ward, or did you have?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, I checked. Sorry, I checked the link on our website, and it says it's broken or something. It's not it doesn't link. Okay. And I think if it were to link, if it would link to Gualala's, but then I look at Gualala's and I don't see a mention that they're managing your affairs. So maybe an asterisk or something, or a spot on their website that says, hey, if you're a customer management provided, some brief statement there would be important for both, for transparency, and maybe their meeting location could go there and have that there for the public. And then also, again, yeah, I think the challenge is going to be when you go to raise rates on the 218 and all of a sudden you've got to kick them up. I think that's the challenge every entity has. If you, a nice guy, whether it be political or whatever, don't want to raise rates, eventually some board somewhere is going to have to raise them a lot for all the deferred maintenance that has happened. I think I read online that there was some sort of money you were trying to outlay for new garage doors, and there was an issue with, am I the right one, or is that Gualala? No, different one then. Okay, sorry. Okay, and that's all I have then.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, back to what Glenn was bringing up, the State Water Board has money available for that JPA for Millview, Redwood Valley, and Ukiah. I mean, it's stated in there that could be $40 to $50 million available in funding. Is it something that maybe with consolidation for the districts in the Guala area could also form a JPA to also do the same thing and maybe get some funding through the State Water Board? because they're going to need that kind of funding in order to make this thing work. There's just no way it's going to operate without that funding, and spread it over more people, not 103 people.
I believe they are looking at grants to improve their infrastructure. I think that the funding source for the Ukiah Valley Water Authority, JPA, comes through their SAFER program, which is focused on drinking water. But there are other state options for funding that they could be looking into.
So can you direct them to some of those?
We can help provide some links, sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Commissioner McGorty?
Just real quick on that too. So we now have a division of contracts and grants within the CEO's office, and they could, that's their mission is to try to help communities source grants. So I would recommend that there be some connection and contact.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask if there's any additional public comment in the room or items from the district. I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so I'll check online. Are there any members of the Zoom meeting that wish to speak on this item? You could use the raise hand feature on Zoom or press *6 on your telephone, *9 on your telephone. Okay, I am not seeing any hands. So thank you very much for coming this morning, and we can move on to item 7A, the draft logo for Mendocino LAFCo.
Thank you. I'm going to share a screen for discussion. Commissioner McGorty, I think if you could mute your Zoom. The Zoom is muted? Okay. Still seem to be getting a little bit of feedback, so. Okay, so item 7A, thank you. During our February meeting, the Commission reviewed draft logos and provided direction to staff to request inclusion of the LAFCo acronym in the logo. Additionally, the Commission expressed interest in developing taglines that could be used on letterhead and outreach materials or within the logo itself. Several options were provided that highlight the acronym in various color combinations from the graphic designer that we are working with. As far as the tagline, there was preference stated for the Cal LAFCo's new tagline, which is supporting sustainable community growth. I did check with Cal LAFCo, and that is part of their new branding and is proprietary. So we worked with Commissioner Roden. Thank you very much for your help, and we came up with some options for the Commission to discuss and consider. First, I'll go through the options that address including the acronym in the logo. So the first approach here is to just highlight the LAF and then CO to call out LAFCo, and we had this done in 3 colors. One was a green color, one was the orange, and then this one was just bolding in the same font or the same color. And then there was one option that came after the packet went out, and that was to include the full Mendocino LAFCo at the bottom. Does the Commission want to discuss this before moving on to the taglines, or?
I can just do a little around the room to see the options people prefer. So we'll go ahead and.
I always am realizing that these logos are not going to be printed in color all the time. So I'm pushing either this option 4, the one with the bolded, because in black and white, it'll still say LAFCo. So I would put that suggestion.
Thank you. Commissioner Roden?
I prefer this last one, option 4. I think it's confusing to highlight first letters of the other words, but I like the color combination of option 1 that has green.
Thank you.
That's my view. Option 4.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I like option 4.
Commissioner McGorty?
Option 4.
Commissioner Ward?
4.
And Commissioner Horsley? I'm also for option 4, and either with green or with the golden. Either way works for me. Okay.
Is there preference on the color to finalize it?
I prefer the blue. I think the yellow and the green makes it look carnival-ish to me.
All blue. Okay.
Yeah.
Commission, it looks like I'm seeing nodding heads for all blue.
All blue.
With Mendocino LAFCo.
Okay.
Unless anybody objects. Move on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, for the draft taglines, staff and Commissioner Roden developed these for discussion and consideration. So basically encouraging community growth and inserting logical, orderly, or well-planned. So encouraging logical community growth, or orderly or well-planned. Balancing community growth with open space and agricultural land preservation. Balancing community growth, open space, and agricultural land preservation and municipal service needs. Supporting efficient municipal services and sustainable growth. Or facilitating resilient municipal services and community growth. Or encouraging logical and orderly local government and regional planning.
Thank you. I'm going to start on this side of the room this time and go to Commissioner Horsley for her preference and then just work my way around.
Or some combination of the words is fine too. Basically what we did is use the what's in the CKH and kind of worked from there.
Well, to me, facilitating resilient, that doesn't mean much to me, or I think to a public member. I kind of like the encouraging logical and orderly community growth, or balancing community growth, open space, and municipal service needs. Because to me, that describes what we're trying to do versus, I think when you add local government in there, that turns up people off. So, hate to say it, but it does. So those would be my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
I like number 2, but adding with orderly, adding well-planned too, so it'd be encouraging orderly and well-planned community growth.
Thank you. Commissioner McGorty?
I'm still thinking. So some of these things start to turn into more of a mission statement. I'd like number 3, but I could almost be more pedantic and say demanding well-planned community growth, because that's sort of what we do.
Oh yeah, that'd go.
But I think that maybe without getting so pedantic, just saying encouraging well-planned community growth is close enough.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I just wanted to agree with Commissioner Ward. I liked his combination.
And Commissioner Roden?
I like number 3 because it's just short and simple. What appealed to me about LAFCo is supporting sustainable community growth. So I like number 3.
3 is closest. The words logical and orderly is kind of a little bit of a teacher snotty tone. So 3 comes better, and I was almost looking at combining 6 and 7, like supporting resilient community growth or supporting efficient community growth. You know, like taking those words and putting them up. But otherwise, I'd be on 3 for sure. That's helpful.
Well, I just, for clarification, I think what you're looking for today is to start down a path, but if 6 months from now it's not working for us, it can always come back. This isn't a lifetime commitment to taglines.
The tagline would be something that we would add to our website or to outreach materials and our letterhead. So I think we can move forward with the logo with the direction today. and that we can continue to work on that tagline.
Does anybody have a tagline that they want to go ahead and get started with today, or do you want that to come back?
I don't care, three seems to be popular.
Yeah,
I was
Commissioner
going to
McGorty?
say, can we do just a straw poll and see if people support 3?
Raise your hand if you support 3. Okay, I see a unanimous, so let's go ahead and get started with that. And if anybody gets, incredible, overwhelming community feedback against the tagline, we're certainly happy to bring an agenda item back to the commission. Otherwise, please move forward with number 3.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do want to ask or make sure that there is no public in the room, so make sure that there's nobody on Zoom that had questions or feedback about this. And seeing no hands raised, I will move on to item 7B, LAFCo request for support of Senate Bill 1209.
Good morning. This is Marcia Birch. I'm going to present this item. And this is just an authorization to staff to either submit a letter of support or in opposition to Senate Bill 1209. I think you're all familiar in 2021 with the San Luis Obispo case where the 2nd District found that LAFCo did not have the authority to include an indemnification provision in its, in its processing its applications, which has been a real problem. It's just been a challenge for LAFCos ever since. And there was a little bit of difficulty, and I actually don't know, Scott Brown may know the answer to this question. I haven't talked with anyone on the committee from LAFCo, but there was some difficulty in finding a senator to carry this bill forward. So they weren't successful in doing that last year. It is moving forward now, and there's a possibility of action by March 17th. So if the commissioners would like to authorize staff to submit a letter, it would be timely if we submitted it very shortly. So if anyone has any questions about this, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, are there, Commissioner Horsley?
Do the agencies that LAFCo works with, do you think they're in support of this, or they don't want to see LAFCO indemnified?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think there was some opposition to this bill, which is why there was some difficulty in getting it carried forward last year. I don't know the specifics of what that opposition was. Okay. Most public agencies through the government code have the authority to include indemnification provisions like, what were so common for all LAFCos that I'm aware of before this case came down. So it really just allows, in my view, it allows the defense costs to be allocated where they should be. And that is for the agency or the applicant that is benefiting from the approval. Mm-hmm. So it's very typical for agencies to use these types of indemnification to, kind of allocate that risk in an appropriate way. So I suppose, ideally other agencies would rather see LAFCo take the risk, but ultimately, LAFCo having to absorb those legal costs or, get help from the county, et cetera, isn't a positive for those agencies either.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I just wanted to move in favor of sending the letter.
Second.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any additional comments in the room or from the dais. So if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Roden?
Yes.
Commissioner Horsley?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
And Chair Mulhern.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We can now move on to item 8A, applications and workload. Did you want to do an update or do you just want to take any questions?
I can do a brief update just to say that we are still working with the county departments to move forward on tax share agreements for the Anderson Valley CSD. We had been waiting for the auditor's office to gather some additional information and data and confirm that data before making the next meeting. So we are scheduling another follow-up meeting for mid-March. Kind of along with that, we need to also coordinate the tax share process for the ELK CSD application, which has also been waiting that process for quite some time. No other movement on applications has occurred in the last month, and the work plan is progressing. Again, we hope to have the Gualala CSD 2 workshop in April, and we are continuing to work on the other ones, and we'll be bringing them forward in the following months. I'm happy to answer questions.
Sure, Commissioner Worsley and then Commissioner Ward.
How, as far as sharing the cost for LAFCo, how is the hospital looking in Fort Bragg?
Unfortunately, I think this last year they were still in the red. As far as this coming fiscal year, I don't have an estimate yet. Hopefully the auditor's office can provide that, maybe provide an update on that. I think they have to wait for their annual financials to come in, and I'm not sure they've had a chance to review those yet.
And just as an aside, I did have someone see the agenda about the logo last month, and they said, oh, so LAFCo has time to do logos, but they can't get any MSRs done. And I said, oh, contraire, you know, City of Ukiah, Sand District, there's 2 water districts out on the coast coming in for workshops. It's all, you know, they just were blown away. They hadn't realized it, and they said, wow, you guys really have moved forward. So thank you very much. Yeah. And for all of what you guys have done that have been on the board for so long. It was very impressive. It was great to be able to say that to someone and for them to recognize the advancements that have been made.
Well, thank you for speaking up.
It sounded like something I'd bring up.
Commissioner Ward and then Commissioner McGorty.
It was mentioned in the packet for the executive committee that you're going to anticipate a lot more applications if the tax share agreements are approved. How many more do you expect?
I believe will be at least 2 or 3 coming forward from the City of Ukiah. I know that they have the Western Hills annexation that they are working through, and we will probably see that in the next couple of months start up again. And then I believe that they have been talking about a fairly substantial annexation plan for the north part of the city, north of the city, but I don't know when that will be in yet.
Okay, I'll talk more at the executive meeting, committee meeting, but I just was curious. So we're on track, right?
I believe it.
I bring this up
me
only
because I am on the Board of Supervisors tax sharing annexation ad hoc, and I do believe that we are on track. Our legal counsel has what I believe to be a near final draft, and that should be coming to all 4 cities and the Board of Supervisors in the next couple of months.
Look at all the applications we can get rid of if we can just get this.
Well, I'm very much working on it, Commissioner Ward. Commissioner McGorty.
I'm curious with the formation of the new JPA, and I'm not sure if I have it right, is Ukiah Valley Water Authority, is that what it's going to be? Okay, so how long is that going to take to be processed through LAFCo? Because I know they want to fast track everything.
So I did have a conversation with Sean White last week, just kind of an initial conversation to talk about the upcoming work plan for next year. And we did touch on that a little bit. We'll be having continue to have coordination meetings with Sage from the city, Sage San Giacomo, and city staff about what that looks like in the schedule for coming to LAFCo. So I'm not really sure at this time, but the communication has started, and we should have more information coming soon. The other thing I wanted to share is that the city and I think Jared Walker, who is the general manager for many of those small districts, has offered to come and speak to the commission at our April meeting. and give a brief presentation on the new water authority and what that means. So we'll have an opportunity to hear from them directly and to ask questions.
So I'm assuming in the interim that they're going to go ahead with their design and grant funding while they're waiting for LAFCo to give its official blessing?
I'm not really sure what their schedule is. I haven't had too many conversations about their project to date, but we did, again, start those conversations,
So they're really trying hard to take advantage of the SAFER funding, which of course is starting to disappear. So I know that they're going to continue to fast track that as much as they can. I just wondered, I guess, in terms of how things work, is it possible to start a project before LAFCo is finished reviewing it? Or how does that work?
So I'm there. Well, one thing I can say is that through the State Water Board, their definition of consolidation is different than LAFCo's consolidation definition. I know that there is intent to come to LAFCo at some point to consolidate. I don't know what that timeline is, but I don't know that the LAFCo application will hold up at least part of their planning process for that eventuality. They do have to develop a plan for services that will be submitted as part of their application to LAFCo, and that may be what they're pursuing at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
I'm confused. They're a JPA. I didn't think we had any oversight for JPAs.
We do not have oversight over JPAs. They have to file their documents with us, but we do not have oversight. That's correct.
So the intention is just to provide an informational report at this time, and then if there are future service agreements that LAFCo needs to consider, then that will come forward at a later date.
Right. I know that there are a lot of moving parts, and annexations or consolidations of the agencies is a very big picture thing, but I think that they're working through the details on what that would look like and how it would happen.
Thank you.
So we don't have oversight for JPA, but what about the consolidating part?
Or a consolidation of local government
We
agencies,
would have oversight on that.
Yes, correct.
But not the JPA itself through an MSR or
Correct.
SOI. Okay.
So just to follow
Commissioner
up,
McGorty.
as long as we're talking about JPAs, then our new Eel River Project Authority has also been created, which is even more magnificent in its reaches since it goes from here to Sonoma County. And how will LAFCo interact with them, or will they?
It would be good to reach out to them, and at least we should have their JPA agreement documents on file, and it would be good to connect with them, though, and coordinate.
So just so you know, in the water community, the Sonoma County LAFCo is feared because they're not seen as being particularly positive or helpful. So it's a very different atmosphere. So I don't know, since this goes cross-county, how that might affect us.
Good information.
That is good to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Horsley, we've combined all of 8A through F. So this is a combined discussion that we're having here. Commissioner Horsley.
So just to go back to the consolidation for the water districts locally, just to give you an idea of the complexity of this, both Redwood and Millview pay a lot of money to Willow to administer and do the maintenance and so forth. So when they eventually move over to the city of Ukiah, Willow will lose all of that money. Sand District is currently paying Willow for employees, for contract employees and so forth, but there's a lot of things there with the loss of that large amount of money, what Willow is going to do to keep themselves viable and going forward. So it's not just the consolidation and all of that, it's the impact on all of the other water districts also.
Thank you. Were there any additional items that you needed to add for items 8A through 8F?
I do have a very brief executive officer's report.
Okay, please go ahead.
I just wanted to note that we did not receive any applications for the alternate public member. So that deadline will continue to be extended 60 days at a time until we receive interest. So if anyone knows, please go back to your respective agencies and spread the word. The information and application is posted on our website. Just wanted to also note that our CPA is working on our fiscal year 2022-23 audit, and he hopes to have us a draft by mid-March. So Treasurer Ward, I'll be working with you on that as soon as it comes in. And to note also that we have an executive committee meeting that immediately follows this meeting, where we are beginning to talk about the preliminary budget and work program for next fiscal year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any commissioners that wish to add anything to the reports today? Seeing no indication, Commissioner Gonzalez?
I just wanted to publicly thank you as in your role as a supervisor for the tax sharing agreement movement. I'll be honest with you, I never thought it would happen.
Thank you.
Especially after I hit LAFCo, I really thought it never would happen. It seems like we've had districts come here and say, we're stalled at the tax sharing agreement. So I'm glad that if whatever part you had in that, I want to thank you, because everybody's been waiting. It's like being called to dinner and everybody's still waiting for dinner. And I'm glad that we're going to finally get to go to dinner.
Thank you. Yeah, we will go to dinner. It's not quite served yet, but we are very close.
Yeah,
Very close.
I'm optimistic, but it's not done yet.
Okay. I'll buy you a dessert after we're done, for sure. Okay, seeing no, Commissioner Horsley?
No.
Oh, okay. Seeing no additional comments from the commission at this time, we'll adjourn the LAFCo meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.